In a time of great drought and famine in Israel, when the land lay barren and rivers dried up, God chose an unlikely source to provide for his prophet Elijah. This is the story of faith, obedience, and divine provision. The land of Israel suffered under a severe drought because King Ahab and Queen Jezebel led the people into idolatry, worshiping Baal instead of the one true God. As a result, God instructed his prophet Elijah to declare a drought over the land. For some time, Elijah hid near the brook Cherith, where ravens miraculously fed him, but as the drought continued, the brook dried up. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, "Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you." 1 Kings 17:9. With faith, Elijah obeyed and journeyed to Zarephath, a foreign land outside of Israel, ruled by people who worshipped Baal. As Elijah entered the gates of Zarephath, he saw a widow gathering sticks. She was frail, her clothes worn, and her face marked by suffering. He called to her and said, "Please bring me a little water in a cup, that I may drink." As she turned to fetch the water, he called again, "And bring me a piece of bread in your hand." The widow stopped and looked at him with sorrowful eyes. She replied, "As the Lord your God lives, I have only a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to prepare one last meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die." Elijah's heart was moved, but he knew God had sent him for a reason. He assured her, "Do not be afraid. Go and do as you have said, but first make me a small loaf of bread from what you have and bring it to me. Then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, the jar of flour shall not be used up, and the jug of oil shall not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain upon the land." The widow hesitated but saw the sincerity in Elijah's eyes. With trembling hands, she took the last bit of flour and oil, mixed it into dough, and baked a small loaf for the prophet. Then she turned to prepare for herself and her son. To her amazement, as she scooped the last of the flour, more remained. As she poured the last drop of oil, the jug filled again. Her jar of flour did not empty, and her oil did not run dry, just as Elijah had said. Day after day they ate and were sustained by God's miraculous provision. Time passed, and though food was no longer a concern, sorrow struck the widow again. Her son, her only child, became gravely ill. His breathing slowed, and soon he died. Heartbroken, she turned to Elijah in anguish. "What do you have against me, O man of God? Did you come to remind me of my sin and cause my son's death?" Elijah took the lifeless boy from her arms, carried him to the upper room where he was staying, and laid him on the bed. He cried out to the Lord, "O Lord my God, have you brought tragedy upon this widow with whom I am staying by causing her son to die? Let this child's life return to him." Then Elijah stretched himself over the child 3 times and prayed earnestly. Suddenly the boy's chest rose. He gasped and opened his eyes. Elijah carried him down and placed him in his mother's arms, saying, "See, your son lives." Tears of joy streamed down the widow's face. She fell to her knees and declared, "Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord from your mouth is the truth." The story of the widow of Zarephath reminds us that God is faithful in times of lack. He provides for those who trust in him, even in the most impossible circumstances. Through her obedience, the widow experienced God's miraculous provision, and through Elijah's prayer, she witnessed the power of God over life itself. This story teaches us to trust in God's word, even when the world seems dry and empty, because his provision never runs out and his mercy is everlasting. If you found this video inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more biblical stories.